Long Beach real estate has always been a story of booms and busts. Aerospace built the city, the Navy supported it, the 405 stitched it together, and every couple of decades, this place reinvents itself. But here's what almost nobody realizes. Long Beach has already died and came back 3 different times since World War II. And right now, we are standing at the beginning of the 4th version of this city. By 2028, when the Olympics literally come to the Long Beach waterfront, this market is going to split into 2 very different real estate markets. One side becomes one of the most undervalued coastal markets in California. The other side quietly disappoints every buyer who walks in. Today, I'm going to walk you through 80 years of Long Beach real estate history. But I'm not doing this as a history lesson. I'm doing it because the past tells you where the money is going, where the risk is hiding, and which neighborhoods you need to watch before everyone else catches on. I'm Rick Lee with Real Broker, and my team and I help families buy and sell homes across Long Beach, Lakewood, and the surrounding areas every day. So pay attention, because this pattern has already happened 3 times. Let's get into it. When World War II ended, Long Beach was already an industrial city. We had oil, a port, and the Navy. There were even oil derricks pumping out of the neighborhoods that people drive through today without realizing what it used to be under their feet. But the real engine behind modern Long Beach was sitting next to the airport on Lakewood Boulevard. That was the Douglas Aircraft Plant. At its wartime peak, Douglas employed more than 40,000 workers, and more than half of them were women. After the war, the plant kept going. Cold War contracts came in, the jet age arrived, the DC-3, DC-8, DC-9, and then eventually the DC-10 all became part of the story. Decade after decade, the factory kept feeding money into Long Beach real estate. All of those workers had to live somewhere. That is how Lakewood became one of the largest planned suburb developments of its era. Built on former sugar beet fields just north of Long Beach, it gave veterans and families the dream. A 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom home, oak floors, a stainless steel sink, a yard, and a mortgage that made sense. Long Beach filled in too. Bixby Knolls, Los Cerritos, El Dorado Park, Belmont Heights, and many of those neighborhoods people still fight over today were shaped during this stretch. A huge amount of the housing stock you walk through now was framed between 1945 and 1965. Then add the Naval Station on Terminal Island, and the Naval Hospital. At its peak, the Long Beach Naval Complex pumped roughly $1.7 billion in wages and contracts into the local economy, and nearly 60,000 people once worked at the naval base alone. By 1960, Long Beach had grown to about 344,000 people, almost doubled its size in 1940. This was the boom. This was when single-family ownership spread across the city, and for generations, buying a house in Long Beach felt like one of the safest bets you could make. But hold that thought, because the neighborhoods built during this stretch are the same ones you need to watch closely when we get to my 2028 prediction, because eventually, the engine that built the city started to slow. From the mid-1960s through the late 1980s, Long Beach stopped growing. McDonald and Douglas merged in 1967. Aerospace started consolidating. Population growth slowed to a crawl, staying under 1% a year for 2 straight decades. This is when Long Beach became one of those classic American city of neighborhoods markets. Belmont Shore became the coastal lifestyle pocket, Naples became the luxury island, Park Estates and Bixby Knolls became higher-end strongholds, North Long Beach and the West Side became more affordable entry points. For real estate, this was a calm stretch. Prices moved, but they did not explode. Homes turned over slowly, and most buyers were still connected, directly or indirectly, to one of 3 engines: aerospace, the port, or the Navy. That matters because the neighborhood map that hardened during this period is the same map that is about to split again. But before we get to talk about that, we have to talk about the part of Long Beach history that most newer buyers have no idea happened. Because in the early 1990s, 2 of the 3 engines started breaking at the same time. In 1991, the Navy reassigned 38 ships out of Long Beach to other West Coast ports. That move alone wiped out an estimated 17,000 jobs. Then in 1995, the Base Realignment and Closure Commission recommended shutting down the Long Beach Naval Shipyard entirely. By September 1997, it was officially closed. At the same time, aerospace was shrinking. The Cold War was over. Defense orders dried up. McDonnell Douglas was bleeding contracts, and in 1997, Boeing absorbed the company. Commercial aircraft production at the Long Beach plant ended in 2006, and by 2015, the final C-17 Global Master rolled off the line. So, in about 20 years, Long Beach lost the naval presence, the shipyard, McDonnell Douglas, and commercial Boeing production. Tens of thousands of stable jobs that used to support mortgages, families, restaurants, contractors, and entire neighborhoods. You would think that that kind of hit would crush the housing market, and in some areas, it did real damage. But Long Beach did not break evenly. Belmont Shore, Naples, and Bluff Park were already becoming less dependent on the old company town economy because coastal scarcity was starting to do the heavy lifting. Meanwhile, inland and more affordable neighborhoods felt the job losses much more directly. The split between coastal Long Beach and inland Long Beach is something we are still living with today. And that divide that opened in the 1990s is the same divide I think is about to open again. Only this time, the stakes are higher. In late 1990 through early 2010 were the wilderness years for Long Beach. The port was growing fast and would become the second busiest container port in America, but it did not replace all the Navy and aerospace jobs that disappeared. Former naval and aerospace land sat empty and underused. Downtown still had a rough edge. Then came the housing bubble from 2002 to 2006. Easy credit, subprime lending, and speculation pushed Long Beach prices up fast. Then 2008 hit, and Southern California got hammered. In the worst California submarkets, prices fell more than 50% from peak to boom. Long Beach got hit too, but not evenly. Coastal neighborhoods dropped, but tight inventory and long-term demand gave them a cushion. Entry-level neighborhoods saw heavier foreclosure waves. I still hear those stories from clients today, where a parent or grandparent lost a Long Beach house in 2009 or 2010 and never got back in. By 2011 and 2012, the bottom was in. Long Beach began a quiet recovery that did not really take off till the back half of the decade. And when it finally did, two of the three forces behind my 2028 prediction were already moving. Let me show you what they were. Here is where modern Long Beach starts to look familiar. Three things happened at the same time. First, downtown got denser. New condos came in. East Village, Pine Avenue, the Pike, and Shoreline started feeling less like separate pieces and more like a real urban core. Long Beach started acting like a cheaper version of LA and started acting like its own city again. Second, money moved back into older neighborhoods. Bixby Knolls got new energy. Central Long Beach corridors saw more investment. California Heights, with its old craftsman homes and historic district rules, became popular with buyers priced out of the South Bay and West LA. And third, the thing most outsiders still miss happened. A new version of aerospace came back. They call it Space Beach. Rocket Lab moved its headquarters here in 2020. Relativity Space took over the old Boeing C-17 site and turned it into a 1 million square foot 3D printed rocket factory. Spin Launch, Vast, and others followed. Today, about 6,000 space and aerospace workers are tied to this industry, with roughly $750 million in government contracts feeding the ecosystem. Then add the Port of Long Beach, which supports about 1.1 million California jobs and 2.7 million jobs nationally. This city went from running on one major economic engine in the 1960s to several engines firing at once. Then the pandemic hit. From 2020 to 2022, low mortgage rates and remote work pushed buyers into Long Beach fast. Coastal pockets saw bidding wars that would have sounded ridiculous 10 years ago. By the time rates normalized, the price floor had already reset. That is why buyers feel locked out today. That's why longtime owners are sitting on equity they would not have believed in 2025. And that's how we got in the market we are in right now. So what does Long Beach look like today? It is still tight, but not simple. The median single-family home is sitting roughly from the low 800s to just under 1 million, depending on the data set. Inventory is tight, especially in the strongest pockets. Days on market are around the mid-40s to mid-50s. And about 37% of homes are still selling above list. So if your plan is to wait for Long Beach to suddenly become cheap, that is probably not the move. But here's where buyers get it wrong. Long Beach is not one price point. It is a city of price layers. North Long Beach is still around the high 600s. Bixby Knolls and Los Cerritos run in the low mid 800s. Belmont Shore and Naples are well over $1 million, with some pockets above $1.3 million. Park Estates has reported median numbers approaching $1.8 million. And right now, two outside pressures matter. First, the port. After nearly 10 million containers moves during a record-breaking run, the port has been dealing with tariff volatility. That matters because port-adjacent jobs are part of the Long Beach economy. Second, the school district. Long Beach Unified announced major staffing cuts at the end of last year, which signals fiscal pressure, and school district considerations are a huge part of how buyers sort themselves across this market. But do not take one district headline and apply it to the whole city. District-wide fiscal stress is one thing, but the value of homes in school district-anchored neighborhoods like Bixby Knolls and Los Cerritos has historically been tied less to the Long Beach Unified School District budget and more to the local reputation of the specific schools serving those zones. Some pockets absorb the news. Some barely move. That nuance matters when others are writing offers. So if Long Beach has already reinvented itself 3 times, what are we heading into now? That is where the split begins. Heading into 2028 and beyond, Long Beach is not going to be one real estate market. It's going to be at least 2 markets inside the same city. First, the tailwinds. My first anchor call is the waterfront and coastal adjacent markets. By 2028, the Olympics are coming directly to the Long Beach waterfront, with 11 Olympic events across 7 venues. That includes beach volleyball, sailing, marathon swimming, water polo, and coastal rowing. This is not just a sports story. It's an infrastructure story. The city is committed roughly $933 million through Elevate 28, with more than 180 projects tied to mobility, parks, gateways, waterfront upgrades, and public infrastructure. Belmont Shore, Naples, Bluff Park, Belmont Heights, Alamitos Beach, downtown, and the harbor adjacent zones may benefit most from that attention. But I'm not saying every property near the water is automatically a winner. I am saying coastal and coastal adjacent Long Beach has a real structural tailwind because it combines scarcity, lifestyle, infrastructure, and global visibility. My second anchor call is the aerospace corridor. That means Douglas Park, Long Beach Airport, and the Eastern Industrial Corridor. Space Beach companies are feeding roughly 6,000 engineers and technical jobs into the zone, with about $750 million in federal contracts behind them. That is real payroll, real employment, and real housing demand. Layered under those 2 calls are established neighborhood strongholds like Los Cerritos, Bixby Knolls, Eldorado Park, and Park Estates. They have tight inventory, strong neighborhood identity, and demand that doesn't always show up in a simple citywide chart. Now let's talk about where I would be careful. First, older condos with rising HOAs. This is the trap that does not show up in the listing photos. The kitchens look nice, the floors look new, the price looks better than a house. Then you open the HOA documents. Older condo buildings are dealing with deferred reserves, higher insurance costs, maintenance backlogs, and sometimes seismic retrofit exposure. Some buildings will handle that well. Others may raise dues faster than the resale market wants to support. If you're buying an older condo, the HOA reserve study matters more than the granite countertops, and I'm not joking. Second, flood risk, properties and insurance. Long Beach has beautiful waterfront and low-lying areas, but with that beauty comes with a risk. A meaningful share of properties carry elevated flood risk over the next 30 years, and California's insurance market is already under stress. This can show up as surprise premium quotes, closing delays, and escrows that get messy because coverage is harder to bind. 5 years ago, this was not a major risk for many buyers. Today, it can be. I would also underwrite carefully around port-dependent income, logistics sector exposure, tariff volatility, trucking automation, older homes with deferred maintenance, foundation issues, seismic risk, and oil field substance risk. Long Beach sits on an active oil field. I have seen foundation problems show up during escrow after buyers were already emotionally attached to the house. That's when bad decisions happen. So here's the bottom line. I am bullish on Long Beach as a whole. I still think it's one of the most undervalued real estate coastal cities in California compared to West LA, the South Bay, and coastal Orange County. But the easy money version of Long Beach is over. The chapter where everything goes up together because it is Long Beach is done. The next chapter rewards buyers who choose the right neighborhood, the right property type, and the right timing. It punishes buyers who think coastal proximity alone protects them. This is not investment, financial, legal, or tax advice. Every property is different, but this is what I'm telling clients in private right now. Long Beach is not one market anymore, it is a split market. If you're seriously thinking about buying or selling in Long Beach in the next 2 days to 24 months, and you want a real conversation instead of a sales pitch, my contact information is on screen and in the description below. And if today's history lesson helped you understand why Long Beach is so unique, your next step is to understand what it actually costs to get in. I broke the entire city down in my video, The 7 Levels of Long Beach Real Estate. From $370,000 entry-level condos to $3 million waterfront estates, I show you where inventory is sitting for 85 days, where buyers still face multiple offers, and which tier your budget actually puts you in for 2026. So if you want the real map of Long Beach prices, watch that video right here.